Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Community Development, General Government, Housing Committee meeting. I'd like to ask that the roll be called. City Clerk of the committee.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here. And we also have Councilmember Burke, McIntosh, and Larson joining us as well. Today, we have 11 consent items, and we have 5 general agenda items. At this point, we always take the consent items first. I do have to be pulled C1, C2, C5, and C6. Are there any other consent items to be pulled? Councilmember McIntosh.
C3, I'd like to have a request for continuance.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion if there's anything left.
Second.
I think it's 4. 4, is that the only number left?
Yeah. Do I have a second?
I did.
It has been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Clark and Councilmember Scipio. All those in favor of approving the balance, vote yes. And no if you don't want to, if you want to go through all of those. The motion passes. Could we have C1, please?
Item C1, information regarding August housing dashboard.
Just want to preface that the city council went through a housing, what would you call it? I wouldn't call it a workshop.
It was a workshop.
We went through a workshop to help, us to get on one accord as well after voting on our priorities in our strategic plan, which is housing. And we set a goal of 750, but we asked the planning department to bring to us or to put the information that they report to us on a regular basis so we would know where we are and what we have. And that's what you're getting ready to see now, the housing dashboard.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of City Council. I'm Kelly Bennett. I'm a project planner in the City County Planning and Development Services Department. And what you see before you is the latest housing dashboard. It highlights housing that has been committed to being built or approved around the city, as well as the total amount of city-committed funding to affordable housing projects, which are highlighted by the stars here. And this is the annual goal of 750 affordable housing units.
That's our house.
And you can see there are 215 total affordable housing units approved so far. And then if you go to the second page, kind of calls that out. You see the affordable housing projects that have been approved, their total cost, the city contribution, and the city cost per unit. And then you see the market rate projects as well, and some more details about them, the number of units, and the type, and the status of those. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. One of the things, and I'm going to ask, I know I should have presented this to planning when we started to put this in place. Is this the date? I think the date needs to be clearer on here. We got 2022. I mean, is that for just this year, or is this last year? Is it a culmination, or is it just 2022?
This is just 2022. This is January to August 2022. Okay. And these are updated monthly. The first one was produced in June. So if you're on the city website, we have a page with planning publications that show a number of different kinds of development dashboards, and this one we just started, so we have the first 3.
So what it's telling us also is that all of the projects highlighted as pink or lavender on the second page, none of those have been started yet?
The only projects that have been started so far are these that say under construction. And one of those is the Choice Neighborhoods Phase 1, and then 3 more market rate.
Is it possible, and I know that you have to wait and get the certificate of occupancy and that sort of thing. Is it possible for us to see whether any of them have broken ground, or are these all just,
These are, yes, the ones that are labeled as under construction are the ones that have broken ground.
Yeah.
But none have been completed yet.
so all of the approved are just waiting in the queue? There's nothing been done on them? All right, thank you. Any, Councilmember Scipio, Councilmember Clark, Councilmember McIntosh?
But all of the approved are not all of the subdivisions that have been approved? Or are these just that have come in this year, 2022? Because
Sorry,
there
these
are
are-
developments that we approved in 2021, and they are not on here.
They are not on here. And I should correct what I said earlier. These are since June. These are the June, July, and August approvals.
And when will the ones that, because I know I have Wooten Farms was approved last year, and it's coming, it will be starting some breaking ground, and we don't have like Metropolitan Village on here yet. I mean, to make this a real picture, I think we need to have things that are coming forth as well, so you'll know the real picture.
Councilmember Scipio, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. That is one of those things that's difficult to accomplish, and the reason why is, again, we have some subdivisions that are still under construction that were perhaps built in the 80s. So again, it's one of those things where, how do you go, like at what point do we go back and recapture that in time? The dashboard, was meant to be year to year. So when we roll over the calendar year, January 1 of 2023, we won't have any approvals until something is approved in 2023. The Greenbrier Farms, as an example, I believe they've built most of their subdivision. I don't think there are any vacant lots, but there is at least one phase that's never been constructed. Brookberry was approved in 2004, 2005. They still have 3 or 4 phases to go. So again, this is a snapshot of what has been approved this year. Again, trying to meet the city's goal of creating affordable housing. We wanted to track how we were doing meeting the city's stated goal of 750 affordable units, but also show the other approvals that we've had, because every house that we have will hopefully help with the housing crunch. We've got 15 to 20,000 homes that we need within Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. That's the picture we're trying to show. To go back and capture those approvals from past years, it would just very much muddy the water and kind of very much muddy the report and not make clear and concise what we've done, what you have done as a council year to year.
But at some point, when they start breaking ground and building houses, they need to be captured on this report as helping to fulfill our housing need.
And again, the projects that have been approved this year should be on this list.
I agree, but it's those that come forth.
As they come forward.
As they come forward.
Yes. Again, we will continue to update this, but let's just, as an example, let's just say Oak Village Townhomes, third from the bottom on that. Let's just say that they don't break ground until next year. I don't know that will end up showing up on a report because it was approved in 2022.
That's what I know.
There's just not really any way to reconcile that. Again, I think what we've talked about doing is with this dashboard, we would have annualized, you can't really do it here since it's the first year we've done the report, but what we would do is have for 2023, when we move forward for 2022, we would show the number of affordable units that the city approved and the total number of units that the city approved as a benchmark, so then we can start capturing that year to year.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I think we're close here, and I think Chris, you just pointed out this thing can get too complex, but I do have a couple suggestions. First off, in the affordability area, my concern is what monies do we have that we've committed or not committed, because affordability tends to have city money involved in them. So I think it would be, and by the way, I hope this, when I finish my conversation, I don't have a 20-page report, but I think it would be good if we could show, be it ARPA money or the 10 million we got from the state or whatever, show these different pockets of money and then what's been allocated or committed from them. Now, that may be another page for that. And that would give us a feel for what we got left, how much dry powder we have. Because one of my concerns is I don't think we have as much dry powder as we think we do. Number two, I think it would be good to somewhere have in here a listing of lots that we have stockpiled. We got the ones out by the Otter Water Tower. We just approved last month, I don't know what you'd call them, we could give them a name, the one in your ward. We bought another one, I think, up in maybe Miss Adams' ward or somewhere up there, to see how much land we've inventoried. And I'm not talking about, I know we got 300 parcels of land, of which 299 are unbuildable, but I think significant amounts of land. I think the Happy Hills should be listed on here, and maybe you have a comment section and it says Halls after that or whatever. So I think we ought to know what money's there and what's been committed of those funds. And I don't think that's overwhelming, because I'm thinking there's only 3 or 4 pots of money that we really have. We've got ARPA, we've got state, we've got bond money. But anyway, that's the first one. Second one, I really want a concentration on affordable housing. I think you need, for example, to list all 5 phases of the choice neighborhoods. Those are committed, and we do have a city contribution. Now, what that is, we're still struggling with, but I certainly think all those phases should be on here. And the other one would be in the graph, the 2022 approved. Any ones that say affordable, I think we ought to have out to the right what the city contribution is if we know what it is. And I'm just going down here. There's Choice Neighborhoods 2. There's Murray Heights, if we have any feel for what we're going to be doing there, just as an example. And the last one, this may get to Ms. Scipio's, could you do it in each calendar year, a listing of all houses that have been finished or apartments that have the CO? And that'll really tell you how many housing units did we bring to market in 2022. And by the way, you also need to determine, is that calendar year or city year? I leave that up to y'all. There are lots of places we've got ones and twosies being built everywhere. Now, that may get a little complicated, but.
Yeah, I think we already beyond that.
But anyway, what I want to know is how much money do we have? How much have we committed to? How much land do we have? Because every time we do one of these, we're writing checks, if not figurative, at least literally. And my concern is right now, if you add up just the choice neighborhoods, we're 46 million short, and that's after committing whatever we've committed. I think we will be shocked to find out how much potential money we have committed if you throw in, Mr. McIntosh, what's the reason on a $35,000 a door? 25 a door? We just bought 23 acres in somebody's ward. How much did we commit if we're going to make that affordable housing? Because I think we have got a runaway train here, that we're just buying land left and right, and no one's really sitting down and saying, okay, guys, we got to write checks when it comes time. Ms. Newman's going to need some money when the time comes to build all this stuff, and where are we? My concern is that the choice neighborhood is going to eat up every penny we have, and we're working that. But every day we're adding another 15, 20, 30 homes at $25,000 a door. We just need to get our hands around that. And I am confident we have no idea of the order of magnitude of how much money we are committing when we buy empty lots. And I just think we need to know that.
Point well taken, Councilmember Clark. Councilmember McIntosh.
On our quarterly dashboard, we get an indication of certificates of occupancy, correct? And we get a number of single-family and multifamily units that have come online. So that's already generated on our quarterly basis.
Right.
So we see those reports. And this report shows us the 3 projects that we have money going into. First Neighborhoods 1, First Neighborhoods 2, and the Flats of Peters Creek. Those are the only ones that are affordable. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay, so this chart does show us what we've pledged money to as far as affordable units. So that's kind of there in black and white. My question is about what does approved mean on this chart? Does that mean it's past the planning board? Does that mean building permits have been issued? What stage? It's received regulatory approval to go forward, but doesn't indicate that ground has been broken. I'm seeing lots of heads nod, so. Okay, all right, thank you.
One of the things, planning department staff, this is a quick, dirty look. This is what we asked, and some of us put some input into this, to keep it simple, this one. Now, Mr. King, if they want one that has the buckets of money and what we've committed and how many acres and plots and flats and whatever, then you guys can work on that separately. Again, keeping it to a 1-pager, 2 max, but mostly 1. So the council can get a snapshot. I hear what they're saying. What they're asking is, and we've talked about this before, that every time we vote on something, and I've talked to the city manager about this, when it comes to monies that we are pulling out of our different funds and buckets, the council needs to have a snapshot, at least after the action is done or pre the action to be done, because we need to see if we're voting on buying this, how much money is this and where is this money coming from? And give us a balance. If I'm pulling it out of community development block, if I'm pulling it out of bond money, if I'm pulling it out of home, if I'm pulling it out of ARPA, whatever, we need to be able to see the needle go up and down on the money like a bank account, that we're getting close. And if we happen to get some more infused monies from the state, from the feds, then we will show that, okay, we're at this level, but now we back to here because we got this money. I know you got it because we talked about it, right? You understand?
I do. Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. So when we initially talked about this, the request was for a dashboard. And as you alluded to, dashboards are meant to be really kind of a quick snapshot, quick digestible information that you can kind of get a quick feeling of where things are at. And so that's why you see the format that you've got. There's a 2-pager that's kind of quick and easy to digest the information. Councilmember Clark, a lot of the information that you had mentioned, and Mayor Pro Tem, some of the information you had mentioned, especially on the pots of money, if we allocated this much money to this project, how much have we spent? Some of those things, what we had kind of talked about was coming back at some frequency, whether it be quarterly or semi-annually with those reports. I think the first goal was to get the housing dashboard off the ground and then work with a budget office to establish which of those pots we had and then at which frequency we came back to you with that information. Compiling that on a monthly basis starts to get really challenging, as it does tracking down COs on a monthly basis and things like that. Councilmember McIntosh kind of nailed the other piece of it, which is there are other sources of information out there. That quarterly development dashboard hits a lot of that. What we can possibly do is, if you're comfortable, we can go back and make some tweaks to this to try to address some of the comments that we've heard today, and incorporate some of those. The reason you see that kind of white swath on that page right there was so that when we come back in future years, we've got a running total that's a cumulative breakdown. For those of you that have seen the way we used to do like the downtown development report we would do for Jason Thiel's group each year, it's kind of the same methodology as that. We've got some other tools to kind of consider how to compile some of that other information. We can take a look at those. I don't know that we'll be able to get all of those on a monthly frequency, but we can certainly work to see when we can get them.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark.
Yeah.
And then we moving on.
Okay. Point. I just asked Mr. McIntosh, who's this seriously, is very, very knowledgeable about housing. What's the average cost per door? He said $25,000. Right now, on your sheet of paper in front of me, the 3 projects under construction, the average cost per door is $65,000. That's where we've got to have a reality check. And my concern is we are just accumulating land left and right, and we're saying, well, we're not even worrying about what it's going to cost. But if the cost is closer to 65 per door versus 25, and we had the same issue with, is it Turn? What was the organization to fix up the neighborhoods? We originally, I think, allocated, $20,000 a house, and when it was over with, we upped it, Ms. Newman, to 65, 70 a house? I mean, what we find is to make these projects work, it takes a lot more money than we thought. And I want us to take all the potential houses and lots that we have and multiply them by 25 and then multiply it by 65 and see where we are.
Yep. So Councilmember Clark, you're on it. As long as we lump choice into that overall number, we're never going to get to 25,000 a unit. So the question becomes, do we adjust the methodology and set choice aside and have it over here and then everything else? And we can certainly do that. But as long as you got choice in the mix, we're getting to that 25.
You don't even have all the choice on here. You're missing 4 sections.
Well, again, I think it's kind of when the monies were allocated and kind of how we accounted for that. So we can certainly go back and make some adjustments to give you a clearer
I'm a numbers guy, and
picture.
I'm going to see the numbers.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'm going to let Councilmember Mundy have a say, and then we're moving on. This is information.
My request is much easier. I would love to see which ward these are in. It doesn't even have to be a separate column. If after the name of the development, you could use 1 or 2 letters to indicate what ward it's in.
Thank you. Kelly, we got it. They got it. We got it. City Clerk, please call the next item.
Item C2, information on sale of Happy Hill shotgun houses, lots to Triad Cultural Arts Incorporated.
Mr. King. Councilmember Clark asked this to be pulled.
Yeah, give us a 2-minute on it, then I got a specific question.
Yep. So we've got, the city owns about a half an acre of land in Happy Hill at the corner of Humphrey and Free Street. We've got 2 existing shotgun houses located on those 3 parcels. Triad Cultural Arts, I believe, had approached Councilmember Scipio with the idea of having the land and the structures donated to their organization to use for public purposes. And I think they're described for you within your carf there. And so this is an opportunity to, I think, share that vision and that idea with the rest of council. The idea will be to bring back an action item at next month's meeting, and there's also a pending zoning case on this piece of property as well. Cheryl Harry with Triad Cultural Arts is here if you're interested in kind of learning a little bit more about the specifics of the intended uses of that property.
Well, this is just for information, but when you come back, I just want to be sure that Triad Cultural Arts has looked at this thoroughly enough and has a budget in mind of what it's going to cost to fix them up, and do they have those resources available? I would love to give these away, then I don't have to worry about them. But whoever I give them to, I want to be sure they've got the resources to take the ball and run with it.
So Councilmember Clark, you're on it. The structures are, they've got some challenges. The condition has deteriorated significantly. And so it was probably about this time last summer that we met with Triad Cultural Arts on the site. They had a structural engineer come with them to that visit to go through those buildings along with some folks from our inspection staff to try to ascertain what improvements needed to be met. And so I can say that we've done that. They do have a budget. I don't know about the funding. Perhaps Ms. Harry can speak to that piece of it if you're interested.
We can get that when it comes back. Thank you.
We good?
Yep.
Thank you. And that item will come back.
Yep.
Next item, City Clerk.
Item C5, fix and date for a public hearing on a resolution supporting the eligibility of property for the National Register of Historic Places, Downtown Winston-Salem Historic District.
Ms. Newman. Nope, that's not you. Who is this? Ms. Newman?
It's Michelle. It's Michelle.
Michelle.
Sorry.
It's Michelle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you went to 5. Sorry, I was looking at 3. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
It was
Ms.
my-
Councilmember Scipio pulled this. Ms. Councilmember Scipio.
Yes. I just wanted the public to understand what this is and the difference between the National Register designation and our local historic designations. And my biggest question is, are all of the local historic districts included in this larger area?
All righty, I have a slide to share. How do I? Good evening. So Winston-Salem is what we call a certified local government. And as being designated as such, you get the opportunity to comment when we have national registers come before the National Register, the State Historic Preservation Office. The downtown district has been applied for, and we get 60 days to comment. And the comment is whether it meets significance and integrity. So those are the criteria for listing on the National Register. The downtown district, we currently have several other downtown districts. I've incorporated this map so you can see them. So the yellow is what is being proposed at this time. The blue districts are the surrounding districts that have already been nominated to the National Register through the state and the National Park Service. So we have the West End, we have Old Salem, Downtown North, and Winston-Salem Tobacco District. So that leaves this hole in the middle, and it's our most significant downtown buildings. If you look at it, that's 4th Street, Trade Street, and those things. There was an application at one time in the early 80s, 90s, pre-me, so I can't give you a lot of details. Unfortunately, it wasn't designated at that time. We've had an outside resource, an outside developer hire Commonwealth, I think our Commonwealth Cultural Resource Firm, and they have created this district and applied for it. It is only a National Register district. They are not applying for local district nomination, which is like our Old Salem and West End, which means there will not be any, other layer of permits they need to go for or certificates of appropriateness. They will not need to go before the Historic Resource Commission. This is just listed on the National Register, which is our nation's honorary list of our best properties we have. What it does do, it leaves them opportunity to use historic rehabilitation tax credits for all contributing structures. And why that's important within a district is our big and most well-known buildings like the Reynolds Building, the Nissen Building, they're listed already. It's those little buildings in between that are the common everyday commercial buildings that add to the feeling of our community that now will be able to get to use these tax credits and that sort of thing and have protection over any federally funded projects. So again, there's no local restrictions being put on this district. This is just National Register. The second question you asked about, does it include our other districts? It's its own standing district. However, we have these other districts, and that's kind of how that state and national process works. You don't, once there's districts, you don't include other ones. They don't like overlap, really, so.
Councilmember McIntosh and then Councilmember Mundy.
Just very quickly, when a National Register district, as Michelle mentioned, there's no restrictions. It's pretty much all carrot, no stick.
Yeah.
If you want to make use of the federal tax credits, not local tax credits, but federal tax credits, there's a series of hoops you need to jump through in order to do that. So there's no impact to us from a revenue side
Right.
at all.
It's not like it's not a deferral of your property taxes. This is a tax credit program run by the state and the feds, so it will not affect our tax base.
Right. So it adds another layer in a capital stack that makes projects doable that a lot of times are not doable without that. So it's an infusion of really of federal money into our downtown.
Correct.
Thank you.
And does this encumber in any way the ability for the owner to change things? Does it lock them into an exterior design
No.
or an interior?
So no, and that's when I was talking about a local designation. It really is when you get at that local level that there's more restrictions.
So you said no limitations, that's what you meant?
Exactly.
Okay, thank
So
you.
once this is accepted and approved, the next day, all of those buildings can be demolished.
Got it, thank you.
So we need a motion.
Yes, could I have a motion, please?
I'd like to move that we approve this. C2, C5.
Been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Scipio, Councilmember Clark. City Clerk, please call the vote. Forget that, we're voting electronic. I keep having flashbacks of COVID. And the motion passes. I need to go back to consent item 3. I apologize, Councilmember McIntosh. Would the city clerk please call that?
Item C3, resolution rescinding a prior resolution forgiving the Housing Finance Fund loan balance of $156,869.59 for the property at 207 North Spring Street.
Councilmember McIntosh, let him.
Yeah, so this is a property that we have been negotiating, or we've been trying to effectuate a sale on for about 3 years to the property owner in front of that, who owns the building in front of it. Title is in the name of a defunct entity that we have been unable to get to step up to sign a deed over for anyone on that board that no longer exists to take responsibility for signing over a deed. So it's been back and forth between our lawyer, his lawyer. This, to me, says that we're no longer going to do business with that guy. I want to at least take a month to make sure that we aren't doing something we shouldn't, that we're acting in good faith in terms of what process we've gone through with this gentleman. I talked to him today. He was completely unaware that this is where things were. His lawyer, apparently, he's changed lawyers. There's been some lack of communication. So if it's not time sensitive, I would like to take a month just to explore where we are with it.
City Attorney.
Just one point of clarification. The back and forth has been between the housing partnership lawyer and his lawyer. I've tried to get them to move it forward, but they've been having issues with communicating.
Right.
And I now understand he has another attorney, which
Correct.
hopefully will move things forward. But I don't have a problem with holding it in committee.
So do we need a motion to continue this or just hold it in committee?
I would just say hold it in committee
Hold it in
if
committee.
you want to.
All right.
Could I just ask for clarification? Good afternoon, Marla Newman, Community Development Director. We made a commitment with this gentleman 3 years ago, and that building's been sitting there. So ideally, we could attach some kind of time frame because if he's not going to move forward, we have some time-sensitive COVID dollars that we could use to renovate that building and get it into use as affordable housing.
Completely fair. 30 days.
Okay, we can hold it in committee.
30 days. Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Thank you.
All right. One more thing, Ms. Newman, please. I know we had several demolitions on the consent. Your office and your staff, Ms. Richmond, you guys are okay with this?
So
You're
we have one homeowner who is here who has agreed to take the steps to demolish the structure on his own.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the general agenda, would the city clerk please call the first item?
Item G1, information on the Office of Sustainability Annual Report and City Operations Greenhouse Gas Update. This item was held in committee at the August 9, 2022 Community Development Housing General Government Committee meeting.
Ms. Poplawski, finally, we get to hear you. You notice I put you at the top. I told them anytime, at least in my committee, that we put reports on hold or items, they automatically go to the top of the list and everybody else has to fall to the bottom. So welcome and thank you for being patient with us.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, Chair, committee members, and other members of the City Council. I am just here to give a brief update from the Office of Sustainability. This is our annual update, and it does include the greenhouse gas emissions study for our internal city operations. Just as a brief overview to get us started, we did increase our emissions as a local government by about 4% compared to last year, but mostly due to the return to normal operations that we are seeing pretty much across our facilities and properties. I will also point out that our Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful adoption programs have had really great success in the last few years. So we are at the end of 2021, just short of 200 locations adopted. That's across the parks, streets, and stream locations. We recycled just under 11,000 tons of material, and you can see there what those equivalencies are in terms of other environmental benefits. And then finally, the food resilience work that is being done tied to the Think Orange program became our latest division in our office. So those are just some highlights, but I'm happy to talk about any other piece of this report or answer any questions.
Councilmember Clark.
This concerns electricity. We can certainly put in LED street lights and things of that sort. But I'm actually on page 10 of your report that shows the uses of electricity. And this confirms what I had remembered from many years back, that the overwhelming usage of electricity is in water and sewer. The tens of millions of gallons that we use every day are pumped this way and that way. The point of this thing is the number one thing we can do to affect the carbon footprint from electricity is for Duke Energy to put in more wind and solar. Now, the biggest thing we can do, we have no control over, but I do think it's important for your report to report what Duke Energy is reporting the carbon foot is, and I guess they publish it per kilowatt or whatever they do. It's difficult to ask you to steward to something that you don't have any control over, but I do think it's important for us to see how Duke is doing, because we do have some influence over them, and I do know they're working very diligently on it. But I would encourage you to continue to include in your report each year what Duke Energy is doing.
Yes, and last year we did include that. That was actually something that our local representative provided last year, but because it doesn't change very frequently, I did leave it out this year. But essentially, based on last year's numbers, there is about 6.5% truly clean renewable energy coming from Duke Energy. They qualify nuclear as renewable, not necessarily clean, but that adds another 56%. So for our office's definition, just to remain consistent with our peer cities, we are, and with our resolution from November 2020, we're sticking with the clean renewable numbers. So that 6.5% is what we're being provided by Duke Energy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I want to thank you and the Sustainability Department, Ms. Poplowski, for everything that you're doing. People don't realize how much you guys are doing right now, especially with climate change and everything else coming at us the way it is, and the environment and the floods and all of the other things. But we appreciate you truly, the City of Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Thank you. City Clerk, next item, please.
Item G2, resolution amending Articles 2 and 3 of the City of Winston-Salem's Personnel Resolution, authorizing the city manager to offer competitive market adjustments, permitting adjusted seniority for newly hired employees, and authorizing in-service vacation payouts for city employees.
Thank you. Dr. Barnett.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. The item that you have before you is a means for attracting and retaining top talent at the City of Winston-Salem. The first item, which is amending Article 2 of the Personnel Resolution, permits for the city manager to go up to 5% above a stated and bona fide offer of employment from a competitor. This should give us the flexibility to be able to retain those employees in our organization who are solely leaving because of pay-based reasons. The next item that comes out of Article 3 is a change to our vacation time accrual rates. So what this adjusted seniority item would do is it would allow for the city manager to approve when an employee comes to us with service from the North Carolina Local Governmental Employees Retirement System or somewhere else in the state of North Carolina, we would be able to match their vacation. So if they are at 20 years of service with the state or in the state retirement system, we would be able to bring them in at an accrual rate that begins at 20. So they would start accruing on the schedule. And then the final item that you have before you, I came before you, I think it was in March, to talk about an in-service vacation payout. This in-service vacation payout would essentially allow for city employees to have access to their vacation time while they are still in active service and without being away on leave. We've taken this time to craft a policy that would allow for city employees to take 1 or 2 weeks well, it would allow them to take 2 1 week, or it would allow them to take 1 2-week payout of some accrued vacation leave while they're still in active service.
Thank you, Mr. Barnett. Again, Dr. Barnett, again, we will continue to see amendments and upgrades to our personnel and our employee policies because we're in competition. And we were at the State of Education today, I think all of the council, and we had the heads of all of the colleges and universities here in Winston, along with Dr. McManus, the superintendent of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. You've probably seen the headlines. They are struggling, to get teachers, and not just teachers. We're talking about people that actually make the process work. Your cafeteria workers, your maintenance workers, the bus drivers. We are just like them. We not only need people that work in the offices per se, but we need people who are willing to work in the field that ensures that we get clean water and the fire and the police and the streets and everything else that goes into it. One more point, and then I think Councilman Clark, you have a point? No. Where I previously worked, and I think I told the city manager, I might have mentioned it to you, Dr. Barnett, we were able, our employees, they got paid their vacation pay at the January 5th every year. They got every check. If you had 6 weeks of vacation, you got 6 different checks, taxed just like they were weekly. And you could work during your vacation. You could come in, get paid, overtime, whatever, but you could also be off if that's the choice that you wanted to make. But what it made was another opportunity for employees. If you had college tuition for your children, if you had wanted to buy a house, if you had, yes, taxes to pay, that they had a bucket of money after receiving their end of year performance incentives and all the other things they were getting, and their union perk they got every year as well. January the 5th, you could count on the fact that you were going to get paid 6 weeks vacation, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was, and you could count on that for you and your family for any emergencies or anything else you wanted to do with it. So I commend the city of Winston-Salem for stepping up our game, and I constantly tell us, we got to always, as Dr. Barnett knows and Mr. Garrity, we got to work on this because everybody now is throwing different incentives at, new employees and people to keep them, or either the new ones to come. I saw where somebody is paying teachers $45,000 bonus signings. I'm ready to go get my teacher certification. I don't know about you all, $45,000. But again, I thank you for this, and please continue to keep us updated on any other new things that we can do to ensure that we are able to provide the citizens of Winston-Salem with the services that they should readily have. May I have a motion?
I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded by Councilmember Scipio and Clark. If you so, please vote, and the motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think you batting 100, aren't you, on all these different amendments and things you've been bringing us over the past year since you've been here, right?
I've heard the average is up there.
That's right. Thank you so much, you and your staff and department. City Clerk, please call the next item.
Item G3, update on the status of the new comprehensive plan.
Ms. Crum, our newly promoted Assistant Planning Director, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Let me just.
I know, you're right, yeah, I know. You'll get it.
Thank you. Amy Crum, Assistant Planning Director. I'm here to talk to you today about the comprehensive plan. And just to show you on the first slide here, we do have a name. It's for 2045. I'm not sure how many people are aware of that, but it is, we do have a name there. A little overview for you. As you may recall, Legacy 2030 update was adopted in 2012, and that process started about 2010, the planning process for that, and it went to go through to 2030. As things have changed rapidly within just development, we decided as a department to sort of start that process a little bit earlier and shorten that time frame. So we are starting with the Forward 2045 plan. This will be a new plan. It will not be an update to Legacy. It will be its own document. As many communities do, they have a community steering committee for their plans, their comprehensive plans. We have decided to make the city-county planning board the community steering committee for the planning process. We also have a staff steering committee that has been formed that will handle some of the decision-making as we move along. To start this process, we did what we kind of always do in our department. We look at what our peers have done. And so we did a literature review of multiple different communities across the country to see how they have done their comprehensive plans that have been recently adopted. And so we had staff look at two plans. The first was either a national, regional, or state example, and the other one was one of their choice. The only caveat being that it had to be adopted between 2017 and 2020, so it had to be recently adopted. And we had them review these plans on three criteria: content and organization. We wanted to see what kind of topics they discussed and how did they organize them. Outreach, did they do anything creative in their outreach that we can sort of learn from and use ourselves? And then aesthetics, was it easy to read? Was it attractive? Were their graphics good? Anything like that we could look at and learn from. This right here is just a map to show you all of the different plans that we looked at. They're color-coded. The orange is the pre-selected, and the purple color is staff selected. So you can see it's a broad range across the country: small, large, medium-sized communities. And we learned three main points. First being, we do not want a massive document. For just an example, Minneapolis is 1,200 pages long, 800 of which I believe is the appendix, but still, that is a massive, massive document, and it's intimidating to people to sit there.
We wouldn't read it.
Yeah, nobody will read it. We're in the age of Twitter. Nobody's going to read that. And also, it really creates a barrier to the average citizen to look at our documents. We're aiming for about 100 pages document, and that's completely doable. Greensboro's recently adopted comprehensive plan is 78 pages. Denver's comprehensive plan is 78 pages as well. So there are examples out there where you can have a short and concise document. We want to make sure that it's a vibrant document, that it has a really good use of color, both in terms of being inviting and engaging to people, but also as a way to sort of navigate the document, using color as a way to navigate and help direct people to different sections. And we want to make sure our graphics are legible and understandable for the average person. And our pictures really tell the story of who we are as a community. And lastly, we want to make sure that it's clear, concise language. We don't want planner speech. We all know what planner speech is. Nobody, unless you're a planner, you really don't know what we're saying. So we want to make sure that it's easy to read and understand for anybody who's not a planner or who's an average citizen. These are lists of just main topics. I won't go through them all. These are items that we know will be discussed in some manner within the plan, whether they'll be a separate goal or topic, or if they'll just sort of be meandered through the plan itself. You can see them there. I won't talk about all of them. Obviously, equity is a very big one. And looking at our other communities that we researched, they sort of had three approaches to equity. Either they didn't talk about it at all, they mentioned it had a blanket statement in the beginning and that was it, or they interwove it throughout the entire document. So we're hoping to follow that latter approach. Obviously, affordability and housing are two critical areas that we need to talk about. Being adaptable and resilient are also critical areas. The logistics for economic development, it really just speaks to making sure that we have all the amenities in place so that we can be competitive in attracting companies here. Accessibility talks about both in terms of physical access to things, making sure that we are accessible towards different populations, but also things like the digital divide, making sure we address that. In terms of current history, we know a lot about the Moravians and R.J. Reynolds and the wonderful thing they've done for this community. What we haven't really talked about a lot is really our post-World War II history, our urban renewal history, some of the history that's taken place in the last 50 to 100 years or so, and that's really left a significant impact on our community, that we're really kind of facing those impacts now and having to address those impacts now. So we want to include that history within this document in some manner. Some other items, real briefly. We really like a solid introduction and executive summary, so we want to make sure we have a good, concise one there. A lot of plans we saw have a user guide. You know, some would be, what is a comprehensive plan, how to use a comprehensive plan, the role of a comprehensive plan. They called it different things, but it was a user guide in the beginning of the document that really helped a person understand what the document's about and how to navigate it. Really looking at the top 5 to 6 projects. This is something that Greensboro did. Some are core projects that people can get a handle on. Ways to personalize the plan. Madison, Wisconsin is a good example. They actually had quotes taken from the public outreach that they included in each section. So that way, kind of personalize it and make sure it makes it more of a community plan, not sort of a planner's plan, so to speak. And also using pop-up boxes just to provide additional information to help articulate our goals. So little progress update. Again, we have formed the staff steering committee. We have a logo, which I'll show here shortly. I just put the order in for the swag and marketing items, so we're moving forward with that. We have a meeting tomorrow to hopefully finalize a survey platform. We're looking for a platform that can be used on multiple types, you know, smartphones, laptops, you know, whatever. And it's also really easy and user-friendly. And we're going to be developing those survey questions. We're also doing data analysis and topic research, looking at socioeconomic data, that historical timeline, and some of the current planning trends. And we have a preliminary schedule. So this is our logo. I like it. This was done by graphic staff within the planning department. You can't really see the whole thing here. And then going forward, our preliminary schedule, obviously we're in the admin phase right now. Like I've mentioned, we're going to start with what planning calls a soft public outreach. I'm sure if you ask Frank Elliott, it is not a soft outreach. But so we're going to seek out information before we actually have the in-person meeting. So we're going to have tables at events. We have a table scheduled for the fair and the International Village, as well as going to different locations, you know, bowling alleys, parks, you name it, just sort of getting out in the community and getting folks to provide some information. We have a list of about 5-page list of stakeholders that we're going to try to hopefully set up some meetings with, get in their input. Obviously, we'll have a survey that will be late fall. And then we're looking at any other ways to just get the word out and keep people doing that survey and getting their input. And then we'll start what we call the more formal phase, which should be, you know, the actual in-person meetings. Spring of next year, we'll start with sort of a set of meetings dealing with the vision and goals. Now, those will be in-person and webinar-based meetings. And then during the summertime, we'll go to more looking at land use and growth management. This will be more of what we call a workshop, where people can, you know, get a pen and roll on some maps and things like that. And then we'll have draft plan meetings in the winter, spring 2024. We've allotted time within the schedule to do other targeted outreach if it's deemed necessary. So if we're seeing that we are not getting input from some, you know, group or some geographic area, we can do some specialized targeted outreach in those segments to hopefully get some more information. And we can also do another survey. And then we're looking for finalizing the plan and doing adoption going into summer 2024 is what we're hoping for right now. And if it's amenable to this group, we are looking to possibly come back, you know, on a quarterly basis to give you a little update of where we are and what we're hearing from folks, if that works for everyone. And that's, anyone has any questions?
That's it?
Oh,
Councilmember Clark?
no, I just say summer 2024. Okay,
Any,
that's fine.
Councilmember McIntosh?
Just a
and
quick
Councilmember
comment.
Monday.
Downtown Partnership is in the process of doing their updated as well. The bar set pretty high here. The last one, Legacy 2030, got widely recognized for the quality of it.
Yeah, it's a national award winner. Yeah.
Yeah. So good luck.
Councilmember Monday.
I've said something like this similar in the past. please make sure that this plan is not driven by baby boomers.
Oh.
That's not our consumer going forward. When you look at 2045, most of the baby boomers, and I'm on the cusp, will not be with us. But a lot of the plans for this city that I've seen are very much geared towards the American dream of a baby boomer, which is not what is marketable at this point in time. So skew your audience for a data analysis and focus groups more towards who your consumer will be in 2045.
That's a point well taken.
I don't know about you, Councilman Monday. I'm a cool boomer. I don't know who you talk. You must be talking about yourself, right?
I think so.
Right?
He's talking about himself.
Talking about himself. Exclude him and his tribe. Anyway. Thank you so much, Ms. Crum, and welcome again as the newly appointed promoted Assistant Planning Director. I can already see you, as always, you hit the ground running. Looking forward to working with you and the staff and the department on this plan. Thank you very much. City Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Item G4, presentation of the Community Appearance Commission Annual Report.
We're going to call up the chair of the Community Appearance Committee, Anton Musaf. Hello.
Hey. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of City Council. My name's Dan Rankin. I'm a project planner in the planning department, and I'm the staff contact for the CAC too. And I'd just like to introduce this as the CAC chair, Anton Musaf. So,
thank you.
Good evening. And he'll be presenting the 2021 annual report. Go ahead. Yeah.
Good afternoon,
Good
Mayor
afternoon.
Pro Tem, Ms. Adams, and good afternoon, the council members. I also want to say congratulations to Ms. Crum with the new position, and well-deserved. And I've worked with her for years now, and she's the best.
Could you give us your, where you live, your address, for the record?
So right now, I reside at 1616 Rayleigh Drive, which is South Ward.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm the chair of the Community Appearance Commission, and just have a little annual report of what we've done, what was done in 2021 as well. So this past year, we witnessed the continued effects of ongoing COVID pandemic, which has left an indelible mark on our community. The Community Appearance Commission has largely been able to adapt its work to live during the pandemic, with all of the commission's meeting this year being held virtually. Unfortunately, Community Roots Day was canceled for the second consecutive year due to safety concerns related to holding this event during the pandemic. This year we had to cancel the event again during some serious staffing concerns the Vegetation Management Department has in connection with the Community Roots Day event and their ability to adequately staff the event. It is our hope and a general expectation that we will be able to hold the event in the fall of 2023. The Commission was able to continue with one of its core responsibilities of reviewing and providing design input for publicly funded projects. In 2021, the Commission reviewed renovations for a school, recreation center, park, and the proposed boat storage building at the marina. The CAC is also looking forward to sponsoring and organizing the next biannual Community Appearance Award Program that is set to be held in the spring of 2023. We appreciate the ongoing support of the Winston-Salem City Council, Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, and the City Council Planning Board. We're hoping that the remainder of 2022 will be as productive as the past year for the CAC, as it continues to work to improve the visual character and aesthetic quality of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. We're very excited being completely returned to our in-person commissions meeting and activities now. This year, we're also very excited to partner with Creative Corridors Coalition. They are working hard and diligent to make our city beautiful, green, artful, and iconic. Some of the current and future projects include Welcome to Winston-Salem signage for our city, which would represent who we are and what we're all about that we do not have as of now. Projects like Peter Oliver Cultural Site and MLK Streetscape and more. As always, our member and I welcome suggestions for new programs and potential partnerships that we can undertake to better serve the community. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the city clerk call the next item, please?
Item G5, presentation on the Dreamland Park Neighborhood Transformation Plan and the Columbia Heights Extension Sky Village Neighborhood Revitalization Plan.
And Ms. Crum, you have the platform.
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, member of council. I am here to introduce pretty much the next two items for both Dreamland Park neighborhood and Columbia Heights Extension. As you may recall or may not, but back pre-COVID times, back in December 2019, an item came before you to do a pilot project on neighborhood transformation and to use Dreamland Park and Columbia Heights Extension as the two neighborhoods. And allow, basically, the premise of these was to allow the neighborhoods to be the driving force in creating that vision. And so we had a contract signed with members from NC University and Habitat for Humanity to do this project. And I'd like to introduce, we have Karen Terrell Jackson, Robert Powell, and Tony Graham here to speak to these projects, and they'll give the presentation on each of the neighborhoods.
Thank you.
I can. Turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council.
evening.
I'm Karen Jackson, and I'm an assistant professor in Leadership Studies and Adult Education Department at North Carolina A&T State University. My part on this project, as Amy mentioned, we started back in 2019 working with Councilwoman Annette Scipio, Habitat for Humanity, and getting into the communities to meet with residents. So one of the big pieces I played was to help organize and collect the data for those community meetings. We met on a bi-weekly basis, both as our steering committee, as well as with both the Dreamland Park and Columbia Heights communities. So I'm just briefly wanting to share with you guys that there was a ton of work poured into getting the information that you have in your hands, the reports that you have, as well as the videos and the PowerPoints were all done with the community input in mind. And then we applied the expertise of our architectural engineer, who you'll hear from next, as well as our architect that's been on this project. So I now hand this over to Dr. Tony Graham to talk, or I'm sorry, I think Associate Professor Robert Powell is going to come first.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Could you give us your name and where you live for the record, please?
Name is Robert Powell. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. And again, I'm part of the A&T team. And so my part of the presentation will be to talk about Dreamland Park. And Dr. Graham will speak to Columbia Heights Extension. I think you see the slides there. The two aspects that we want to focus on, number one is the community participation, that how this project came to be, and then talk some about the outcomes, particularly related to what can happen in this neighborhood. make this one work. Scroll.
It's not a PowerPoint. Yeah,
There you go. Okay, thank you so much. So this is just the title slide describing what our team did and the different departments that we represent within A&T. And we'll see if this works. I'm not sure if these videos work. I think they hopefully will work within the
They did in our
packages that you've seen. So you've seen these already.
I'm the principal investigator on.
Oh, there it is. I can hear it.
That's John.
Somebody else.
That's it.
That's his.
Okay.
John's
So-
works good. Oh, did you want it to work? No. Okay.
So just, again, creating the vision, that's the first step, most important step. As we said, and we will continue to say, that this was done in concert with the neighborhood. Although I would say that one aspect of it that we brought was a particular interest in sustainability. Very much appreciate the presentation you heard earlier today. And we think, frankly, some of what we looked at would be ways of implementing some of those aspects in these two neighborhoods. So again, our process was to have several workshops with the communities. First of all, just looking at what's there, let people tell us how they saw their neighborhood, and looking then at opportunities and challenges. Once you see what the challenges are and see how you can overcome them, that leads you into the vision. So here's just a couple slides of our different meetings in the neighborhood. And we just really appreciated the energy that we got from the neighborhood. I will say, take a little bit of credit, that the neighborhood was kind of nascent when we got there, and this process has allowed them to come forward and really share a lot of their ideas with each other. They've developed their own ways of communicating and having neighborhood meetings and so forth. So this is kind of the key vision that evolved out of the process. Heard you all talk about affordable housing earlier and citywide. In this particular neighborhood, you see that there are two sections to the neighborhood. The southern area that you see is what we described as old historic Dreamland Park. And so that is the area within the neighborhood that is primarily occupied now with many different homes. There is a need for rehabilitation in several of these homes. There are some infill lots available for new construction. The northern area of the neighborhood is what we described as the new historic Dreamland Park, and that is the area that is available for new construction. So in the report, we look at each area kind of in more detail, trying to look at the characteristics. So you see in this particular area, it's primarily rehab units, and that is an area that the neighborhood would want to work with city staff to figure out how to better it. You will see later on, we looked at ways of what we call curbside appeal as a way to kickstart this. And I think that'll come in later slides, but it was focused in this part of the neighborhood. In this particular area of existing neighborhood, you see that there were some opportunities for infill lots, but primarily there were a lot of rehab units. This slide refers to the history of the neighborhood. Dreamland Park has an amazing history of when it was developed in the early 1900s, and the architectural design and really the spirit of the neighborhood has so much value to it. This slide does mention some of the things that we look to bring. We collaborated with Forsyth Audubon and actually some of the students from NC State in their landscape program to look at different ways to develop the neighborhood. This is looking at the new sections of the neighborhood, and different sections have different challenges related to what it's going to take to put houses there. You may know Eldora Street has been there. There are sections of it that exist, sections of it that were never built. But there are, in this particular area, for instance, there's the opportunity for 30 lots, new construction lots. Frankly, this area has some potential for new lots. I would say that this is the most challenging of the lot. The grading and the site work that would be required there is much more significant. You see that in our conceptual layouts that we were doing here, we're primarily looking at two-story, 1,800 square foot homes, some infill of three-story houses, and again, among the 50 new houses, looking at the cost of the homes, the road construction, the green space construction that we include in the neighborhood, our estimate was $26 million. I would caution to say that we did this a year ago, and we all know the inflation that's happened since then. So as we go forward, hearing the earlier comments about, what it's going to cost to do these things, that all has to be taken in consideration. Some thought about, and frankly, I think you'll see more of this in Dr. Graham's presentation, but in addition to single-family homes, one of the ways to make homes affordable is to provide duplexes and other mid-range, so-called missing middle housing. And I know the city's done a lot with that. Townhouses, affordable housing, and so forth. So just a little bit about this curb appeal project. We were able to engage a professor at NC State. They have a graduate landscape program. A&T has an undergraduate program, and so one of the ways to start to link these two was to engage their graduate students. So the students actually came to the neighborhood, worked with individual homes, and looked at what it would take to do some landscaping around the home, some beautification and so forth, with the idea that this would kickstart work in the neighborhood, and other neighbors would then want to follow along with that. So these are some of the work from the students. Frankly, there's a book here, and I guess you've seen all of this, but in particular, you see there's some specific ideas of what can happen to a particular home, and again, the homeowners worked with the students as this was developed. This was some of the work we did looking at the streetscape design. Again, particularly in new historic Dreamland Park, there are some challenges to that. So we wanted to look at what that was actually going to look like, how that would actually be if you were to develop this new neighborhood. And my sense is this one's not going to work either. And then, so the other aspect of this is, particularly in new historic Dreamland Park, we looked at green spaces. And so what were the different areas where folks might share some of these green spaces? We looked at various levels of intense versus more passive green spaces. And so this was frankly one large area that could be incorporated into the design. The green spaces in this other area were smaller, more like pocket park kind of things. And again, with all of these, the idea is to put in the plantings and the nature aspect for the neighborhood. One area in particular that we did look at is the Brushy Fork Creek. This is actually at the end of a city greenway. And it is, as you can see, well, these are not of the area itself, but how it could be with some clearing of the land there. The area in blue that you see there is actually just the floodplain for it, and that could become, again, a shared space for the neighborhood. And really, this would be the more rustic area within the neighborhood. So that's a brief update on Dreamland Park. I guess at this point we'll invite any questions on this, and then Dr. Graham will talk about Columbia Heights extension.
I think we're in awe. Good work, Councilmember Scipio, you're up.
This is for both projects, and but I think, can we just see the Columbian Heights first, and then we'll.
And we're talking about them
Yeah.
both.
Yes,
Very
we'll
good.
do both of them.
Thank you. I was thinking that.
Magnificent.
Just so everyone knows, city clerk and staff and everyone, Councilman McIntosh, Chair McIntosh has agreed to give me 10 minutes of his time. So 10 minutes after 6 we have, just so the presenters kind of know you got to get the same time he got, okay?
Thank you so much, and thank you all, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for giving us this opportunity from NCAT to come and present this community, Columbia Heights Extension. I'm a homeboy. I grew up in this community, as well as my siblings and my parents. And so this is my home.
Your name,
and,
please.
I'm excited about this project. It's personal and it's intentional from my perspective. So I put a lot of that effort into this, as well as my team from A&T, as well as the other community members, Habitat, the local church groups, and other stakeholders. They've been very instrumental with us in developing this. So with Columbia Heights Extension, what we found out
Dr. Graham, your name and address, please, for the record.
I'm so excited. I appreciate it. Dr. Tony Graham. I live in Liberty, North Carolina. And that's...
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Columbia Heights Extension is a different approach from Dreamland Park. Reason so is it's a smaller community, and it's a community that is absentee landlord, all right, and has a high rental with a low single-family home ownership. And that's problematic from the beginning. So putting the stakeholders together and getting the individuals together was a challenge in the first place, but one that we were able to overcome. We met with all of the stakeholders, and particularly we met with the business community in this particular case, the Bowman Gray Racing family, because they're instrumental in this neighborhood, as well as Winston-Salem State University. So we met with them as well to see the impact, the economic impact that could be instrumental in transforming and redeveloping this particular neighborhood. Out of those conversations, we were able to put together some ways to approach this. So from the community residents who participated and the business stakeholders who participated, we put together a plan that was accepted by the residents and the business stakeholders to develop a mixed income, mixed use, net zero community design approach, which would be timely, right, with the way the country is going with sustainability and greening. We didn't know that at the time, but we're here now with this. So the recommendation here is to green hard surfaces that are surrounding this community, use solar technology and make the homes into energy independence, and bring in mixed housing, mixed income strategies, and promote walkable communities with this, within this community. Now, to do this, it's a departure from the norms. So we basically segmented the community up into different sections. And in each section, we are introducing different types of middle housing concepts. The point here is to promote single-family homes, to promote staying in the community and growing within the community. And therefore, we are proposing 20 bungalow types, 9 duplexes, 16 triads, 8 quads, to go and renovate the Baptist church in this property and bring in 100 townhomes and 20 affordable single-family housing types within this middle housing strategy. Here's a representation of that strategy. You can see sections A, B, and C. These are the mixed use that will promote that, and the surrounding areas have the other housing types. In particular, here's the pedestrian proposed mall, which is really where the Research Parkway sound barrier is right now. So we're proposing to transform that space into a livable walking space for the community and in a retail space and a shopping space to take advantage of the middle housing and to support the economic wing of the racing NASCAR and the Winston-Salem State activities that are year-round, and to provide transit housing for those individuals as well. These are snapshots of some existing middle housing types in Greensboro, North Carolina. This is from a Hope 6 project, and it's up and running. Professor Powell and I worked with this back in 2004, 2005. Here's some more pictures of the same types, and this is what we're looking at in terms of this community. Oops, okay. So one of the strategies is this mixed-use strategy along the pedestrian mall, where the pedestrian mall is actually Diggs Elementary, Diggs Boulevard, and Vargrave Street. So what we're proposing is to close that street off and create a pedestrian mall. And that pedestrian mall will have these particular amenities. Also, it would also become a memorial wall that will recognize the contributions of the African Americans and others who founded this community and who actually built the boarding house Slater Industrial School, which later became Winston-Salem State. And to accomplish this, we wanted to have open competition between the local residents, artists, community, and the like, and the public schools and universities to come up with the design for the memorial wall and incorporate that into the existing sound barrier wall and basically hide it, but also make it a main feature within the community. Here's a representation, 3D representation up in this corner here. This is pedestrian mall concept with the mixed housing. In this particular case, the retail and living spaces and the walking spaces. Here's some of the other features of having parking close by, and you can see here as well. This representation here is where we have proposed the hard surfaces become green parking spaces, and this is at the Bowman Gray Stadium area and for parking as well. These are other examples of the mixed-use townhouses. This is also in Greensboro. This is at the beginning of Martin Luther King Street, if you're familiar with that, where the Chicken and Waffles House is, for those who've gone to that portion. So we have some real case studies. So Main Street, is critical for walkability in most communities, and we're thinking, and what we want to do is create a pedestrian concept for that along Diggs Boulevard and Vargrave Street. To do this, it's going to be some street closures and handling some traffic rerouting to handle that as well, and to create neighborhood gateway signage that would also reflect the neighborhood. It currently doesn't have any identity, and we want to bring that back and recognize that as well. The sustainable and green strategy is to incorporate that greening of the asphalt surfaces for the parking in the Bowman Grace area, as well as on the landfill there. And that's being discussed because it's an organic landfill. And so then to also incorporate in the green parking spaces these shading devices which has solar panels on the top as well. And this would provide power to the residents within the new community. Here's our proposed budget for the housing and then for the other amenities for green spacing, streetscapes, etc. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Graham, and
Welcome.
where's Mr. Powell? Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and let the council member have a few comments and what her thoughts are. Councilmember Scipio.
Well, for those of you who were around in 2019 when we started this, there was a bigger vision that this would really not only be resident-driven, but it would also be student-driven also. But COVID came. And in the beginning of this project, we had to change and figure out how we were going to actually get community out to participate, to get their work, but we didn't have an opportunity to get the students because they were actually working remotely. But I do want to publicly thank Dr. Graham and Robert Powell and Karen Jackson Barnes, because we had many resident meetings, and the residents came out. Some were in person, and we also had meetings, Zoom meetings, with representatives from the different neighborhoods. It was a labor of love. It was intense because we were working with two different neighborhoods, with residents who love their neighborhoods in Dreamland Park. And we had the residents in Columbian Heights who were the older residents, 95-year-olds, saying, we think this is a great project, but we won't be around to see it come to pass. But they were dedicated to come out, and it was a really great journey. I do thank the council for approving the funds for us to go on this adventure. And I think the ideas and concepts that came out are really different, what neighbors want for their community. And I do appreciate all of the energy and effort that happened. It was really a labor of love, and I thank you very much. I think there are real opportunities in both of these plans as we move forward, going into 2045, looking for what neighborhoods should look like, what they must be like, what they must offer to the residents. These are very old neighborhoods. Columbian Heights was actually developed to be a neighborhood of African-American homeowners around 1936, 1940, I believe. And Dreamland Park is also a very old neighborhood for African-American homeowners, and both of them now are primarily renter-occupied homes. Dreamland needs a lot of renovation, some tender love and care in many of those homes as an investment, but the neighbors are so excited about revitalization, coming together, doing a curb appeal project, getting some paint on those houses. And so I think it's a great vision, and I'd love to hear from some of the other council members and what their initial reactions are.
Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see these urban revitalization plans. What I'm sort of missing in this one, which I appreciate all the design and the urban housing types that are being proposed, I can't tell for sure what is being done for rehabilitation, if there's any housing stock there that we envision as worthwhile reinvesting in as a city, and what the neighborhood is thinking about the housing that they're currently living in as being able to retain that. Do we have any mapping or any showing, an assessment of the existing housing stock?
So yes, the two neighborhoods are different. But particularly in Dreamland Park, when we looked at what we called old Dreamland Park, though that's where the older houses are that Councilmember Scipio talked about, there's a lot of help needed with that. There is a great need for rehabilitation for those units. In the report, we list the number of houses that we estimate is needed. that was not part of our design work per se, but it is, with the implementation, it is critical that we recommend that the city look to see how that work can happen. The neighborhood, I would actually say that it's the neighborhood's number one desire and recommendation for this project, that the houses of old historic Dreamland Park be allowed to be renovated and rehabilitated.
As we try to devise a work plan that the city can participate in and how we take bites off of this beast, I think it's important to look at where we can have immediate impact. And housing stock is certainly a priority for the city right now, and good quality housing that we can rehabilitate is a priority, I think. Infrastructure is important.
Yes. Yeah.
So if we
One thing I would say in response to that, and Councilmember Scipio will know, as you do that, what we heard from the neighborhood was they're not clear as to what opportunities there are for that. So any communication that you can provide to, and probably not just this neighborhood, but to all neighborhoods, would be greatly appreciated.
we need to do that. Thank you.
Councilmember McIntosh.
I'm very excited to see plans coming forward that show integrating missing middle housing into them. It's not just one housing type, it's a mixture of housing type, which historically is the way neighborhoods were built. You had duplexes and triplexes and quads and single families side by side. And it's really refreshing to see that come forward to us, because we don't see that in a lot of plans that we see. So thank you very much for that.
Anyone else? I'd like to say is what the council member.
When you finish this item, can we go back to C6?
Sure. I just want to say that I agree with the council members. It's good to see these types of plans coming before us, because I do know that a lot of the council members, they raise the questions of, when we talk about density, everybody runs for the hills. But density is when you can put people in neighborhoods that they can, again, become neighborly, live close to each other, get to know each other, and own their neighborhoods in the streets. I would tell you that I got some work for you in the North Ward, too, Councilmember Scipio.
We'll take it.
I'd like to work with you on my Boston Thurman deal, because that's been in the queue now for 3 or 4 years. Ms. Newman can attest to that. But I think this is great. And as Councilmember Clark says, he wants to know where we got to get the money from. That's all. That's what we're looking at now. But Councilmember Scipio, thank you for your tenacity to try to get this done. And in light of COVID, I think you all did a great job. Thank you very much. More to come.
Thank you all.
And thank you to North Carolina A&T for their expertise. I think we have resources just next door, down the street, that we don't oftentimes think about using, but they do have real good services that we can tap into. So I want to give a shout out to our HBCU, North Carolina A&T.
Thank you. Councilmember McIntosh, your meeting's going to start?
We need to go back to C6.
Oh,
C6.
See, I'm ready to go, city attorney. I'm ready to move on to the next episode. We need to go back to 6. Would you read the item, city clerk, please?
Item C6, 1406 East 24th Street.
I believe Councilmember Scipio pulled this, and I'm not sure we got a vote on it.
No.
Can we address it real quickly?
I actually just wanted community development to talk to us about the process of demolition. But in the sake of time, I'd just like to go ahead and approve C6, and we can do that at our next meeting.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve item C6. Would you note by voting electronically?
Good afternoon.
I don't know who that is.
Thank you. And the motion passes.
They may be the owner.
We're here today to facing a potential demolition of that facility at 1406 24th Street.
Ms. Newman, Ms. Richmond. Oh. Gentlemen, if you'll step aside a moment so Ms. Richmond can bring us up to speed really quickly on what it is, because normally you just can't walk up like that, but staff has to do their piece first. And what item is this, sir?
C6.
What's your address?
Is it C6, Miss? I think it's C6.
Is it C6, Ms. Richmond?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we've approved.
What is this?
Do I have to resend this?
Let's hear what she has to say.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Richmond.
This is item G6. I'm Sharon Richmond,
You need to
Community
talk in the
Development
mic.
Director. Deputy Director. Trying to get back to the presentation so I can show you exactly what the property looks like.
This is C6, right?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes, northeast.
Okay, all right. Now we can look at it on our screens.
Thank you, Patrice. I'm sure it's added on.
We probably just
The council, if you want to see the pictures included in your attachment on your
Yeah, I got them.
agenda. Good.
no.
Councilman McIntosh, I apologize.
Grin and bear it.
I had a plan.
I didn't realize they were still here. I just wanted to make sure we had a vote
Thank you,
on it.
Attorney Carmen. It's on you.
Just changed
We're good.
the agenda item.
I thank you, gentlemen, for coming down. Thank you.
Yeah.
This wasn't on the agenda.
Just have her meet with them.
We do have them on our screen unless if you guys can't get it up there, I
We'll pull
mean.
it up by the pictures.
All right.
Okay.
We have pictures.
So this item is located at 1406 East 24th Street. This item was a demolition, of course. It is a vacant property. It was unfortunately had a fire. It was 65% damaged. And I will go to the pictures as quickly as I can here, since we're running short on time. This is the back of the property. All of our due diligence was followed. We went through the hearing, we went through the order, we filed the list pendants. So doing our due diligence as staff, that part of the process was followed, and we sent out certification to all property owners involved. We did not hear from the property owners until, I guess, just now. And so we have the pictures of all of the photographs that you have in your photographs. There is a PowerPoint. We're not seeing that right now, but of course you see the photographs.
Thank you.
Here's the front of the property.
Councilmember Clark,
May I suggest that you meet with these folks
please.
and see what they have in mind? We can take this thing back up next Monday night, but I'm assuming they're here to talk about it.
It's the first time I'm meeting them, so.
I know
sure.
the first time we met.
That's why we're trying
So
to,
I'm just, as opposed to taking up committee time, if you folks will just meet in the corner or something and find out what's going on, and if we need to change something, we can do it Monday night.
correct.
My motion.
No, I think.
No, we're gonna-
Motion stand, but we can change it Monday night if we want.
Yeah, it's moving forward out of committee. What he's basically saying is that it'll be on the agenda for Monday night. So I guess if something happens between now and Monday night, just let the mayor and the council member of the
Yeah.
ward know.
That's fine.
And we can find out what they want right
We
now.
can
Right.
pull it Monday.
Okay, all parties okay with that? Mayor,
She's gonna meet with y'all right now.
Yes. Councilmember, the councilmember of the ward is good with that. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. If all hearts and minds are clear, this meeting is adjourned, and Public Works.
Public Works will start at 6:20. As long as we can get our.